Okay, so if you are a guitar player or any musician really, or just someone who loves music, chances are there's a handful of guitar solos out there that are really important to you. They may be the favorite part of one of your favorite songs. They may be something that you sing along with every time it comes up on Spotify or whatever. Or like me, some of these solos have actually changed your life, whether it was the first time hearing them and getting turned on to a new artist or new style of playing, or the first time learning one of these guitar solos, transcribing them and getting these ideas down to help you get better and progress on your instrument. So I wanted to make a video about that. These are 10 guitar solos that changed my life. And that's not just a catchy YouTube title. I really mean that literally. So I wanted to have some fun with today's video. And rather than just sitting in here at my computer programming drums and playing bass myself, I decided to hire some friends of mine to come in and play a session. So I had Kelly McCarty on bass, Chad Collins on drums, and Rhett Huffman on keys. Yes, his name's also Rhett. Yes, it's spelled the same way. Yes, it's weird. We've been dealing with it for years. Let's move past it. They all came over to my studio yesterday and we live tracked these songs in the room together, and it was a blast, honestly. So without any further ado, here are 10 guitar solos that changed my life. So starting off with number 10, this is my favorite guitar solo from one of my favorite bands and one of my favorite guitar players of all time. And this solo meant a lot to me when I first learned it because it was actually one of the first videos I ever put up on YouTube years and years and years ago. But to me, this is a great example of a perfect guitar solo. Here it is. To me, David Gilmour is an example of a guitar player that understands where to put the right note at the right time. And for that, I will always love him and his guitar playing. Coming in at number 9 on the list is another big one for me because this is another one of my favorite guitar players who is, I think, one of the best guitar players alive today. Now, I learned this solo about 4 or 5 years ago. It's a slide guitar solo, and I remember getting this solo down and really starting to feel like slide guitar was finally starting to click. Now, I did struggle with whether or not to put this in this video because it's almost impossible to sound like the original player, but here's my attempt. Now, like I said, I'm definitely no Derek Trucks. Nobody is Derek Trucks other than Derek Trucks. But I do really believe that he is truly one of the greatest guitar players to ever live. He's one of my favorites. And I love his style because it's so vocal. It's so melodic. And that's actually kind of a common theme that you're going to see on the rest of this list. Now on to number 8. This is another one of my favorite solos by one of my favorite artists of all time. I think this is probably, in my opinion, this guitar player's best song, at least my favorite song that this guitar player ever wrote and recorded. Here it is. If you know me or know this channel at all, you know that Hendrix had to be on this list somewhere. He's the reason I started playing guitar in the first place. And Wind Cries Mary is just a beautiful song. It's incredible. I mean, it's the writing, the lyrics, the playing. That solo is so memorable and melodic. It's my favorite Hendrix song of all time. Now on to number 7. We've got another favorite solo by another favorite band of mine, but this one was actually really difficult to pick. I spent legitimately probably half an hour searching through all of their songs trying to pick one, but this one had the edge to me because it's one of the most fun to play, especially with a band in the room. Now, with so many Zeppelin songs and iconic solos to choose from, why put Since I've Been Loving You on this list? For me, it's the solo that first opened my eyes to the idea of leaving space in your playing, in your improvisation. It becomes more conversational, it becomes more melodic like that, and I think Jimmy Page is a perfect example of a player that has mastered that idea. Now, number 6 is an interesting one, and it's one that people might not think of to put on a list like this. There's some argument over this guitar player as to whether or not he deserves the recognition and the credit that he does. I personally think that he does. He's one of my favorite guitar players of all time. This is one of my favorite bands of all time. Again, you're probably sensing a theme here, but still, number 6, here it is. That solo from New Year's Day is so anthemic and huge. It's a perfect example of dynamics in a song. The whole song is building to that climax. It's building to that point. When you get to that solo after the piano motif, it's just this huge payoff. And this solo taught me a very valuable lesson, which is simplicity is oftentimes the right way to go. It's a very simple solo, but it's incredibly melodic. It's incredibly memorable because of that, and it fits the song perfectly. A lot of people argue about the Edge and think that he doesn't deserve the credit that he's gotten, but I completely disagree. Someone who writes and plays a solo like that with that sound and that feel understands how to play to the song, and this solo was huge in teaching me that lesson. Now we're coming into the top 5 of the list, and this was pretty difficult for me to pick, but number 5 I think is perfect for this spot. When I graduated from music school about 10 years ago, I continued taking lessons with one of my former teachers, a guy named Steve Rick. And one of the first lessons I had from Steve after AIM was him basically handing me this song and telling me to go home and transcribe the solo note for note. And I did. It took me a few days, but this really helped break me out of my pentatonic box of playing. Here it is. Robben Ford is a hero of mine. I got to see him here in Atlanta last year, actually almost exactly a year ago, right before the shutdown happened. And it was everything that I wanted it to be. He has some of the best, probably the best guitar tone I've ever heard in real life ever. His feel and his tone and his touch on the guitar truly is God tier, and it's something that I aspire to one day. And like most of the players on this list, trying to play that solo, I mean, it's impossible to sound like Robben. I don't think I totally did it justice, but that was my attempt. Now, number 4 is like Robben Ford, a really great example of blending the jazz and blues influences, and also another famous Dumble player. Here it is. Now, like Robben Ford's solo, this was really important for me. I transcribed this when I was teaching guitar lessons, and I would have about 10 or 15 minutes between students, and I would sit in my little teaching studio room with my laptop and sit and transcribe. And it took me a few days, but the sense of accomplishment that I felt when I finally got this solo down was huge, and it helped motivate me to try out more difficult things in the future. And like transcribing Robben Ford's solos, when you take a look at somebody like Larry Carlton, it's huge for helping you break out of those pentatonic ruts that you might be stuck in. So now we're into the top 3 solos on my top 10 list, and number 3 was huge for me. I was 16 years old when this record came out. I think this album is one of the best records of the last 50 years, honestly. The playing, the writing, the production, the mix on this record is amazing. And so as a result, this solo makes number 3 on the list. Now, the solo from Gravity is one of those things where it's deceptively simple. I mean, the whole solo just takes place on 2 strings, and it's, all diatonic. There's not anything sort of out of the ordinary happening, but it is incredibly hard to play right and to play well. When you have a solo like that is so simple, it's all about the inflection and the touch and the feel of how it's being played. And it's really difficult to match John Mayer's feel, just in general. But this solo was huge for me because it's part of what taught me about playing something memorable, playing something lyrical, something that somebody could sing along with. And I think this guitar solo is the perfect example of that. So that's why it made the list. Now, coming in at number 2 is another really important solo for me, in that it was one of, if not the first slide guitar solos that I ever learned from top to bottom. If you're getting into slide guitar, I think this one player is one of the first people that you should look to try and learn the ins and outs of the sound, the language of slide blues. I mean, you really can't get any better than this artist. So here it is. The intro to Statesboro Blues really, I think, should be the first solo to learn for just about anybody that's looking for that classic open E slide blues sound. Duane Allman didn't invent that style of playing, but he certainly helped popularize it, and he paved the way for people like Derek Trucks to become who they are today. And I think that's really important. And for me, like the Derek Trucks solo I played earlier, this was what really helped make slide guitar and the open E tuning click for me. And personally, playing slide is one of the most fun things that I do. If I'm ever in a rut in my playing or not feeling super creative, one of the first things I do is pick up a slide and throw my guitar either in open E or open G and have fun. And I wouldn't be there without this solo. And finally, coming in at number 1, this is a really important one for me because this is the very first guitar solo I ever learned when I was like 13 or 14. I'd just gotten into guitar. I was listening to this band a ton, and this was the first time that I ever sat down with a CD player and listened over and over and over again to try and pick out each note. It's the first time I ever transcribed, even though I didn't know what transcribing was at the time. And when I finally got it down, it wasn't perfect, but I could play along with the recording, and that feeling is what absolutely hooked me on guitar. Without learning this solo, I don't know that I would even be playing guitar today. And so that's why it makes number 1 on the list. So those are 10 guitar solos that changed my life. Let me know what your list is in the comments section down below. Tell me a few of the solos that you learned that helped hook you on guitar, helped you learn something new. I really want to know. Huge thanks to the guys, Chad, Kelly and Rhett Huffman for coming out and playing on the session yesterday. I had a ton of fun. This is the most fun I've had making a video in a really long time, which means there's going to be more videos like this in the future because why not? I'll have links to their social media and how to get in contact with them down below. Kelly and Rhett both teach lessons, so if you're interested, you can get in touch with them down there and try and get signed up. Don't forget, I've got 2 video courses available for sale down below on RhettShullGuitarCourses.com. I have the Tone course and the Nashville Number System course available down there, with 3 new courses coming later this year. So check those out if you're interested. I also have all of my Helix presets, Kemper profiles, everything for sale on my website, RhettShull.com. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Rhett Shull, and remember, there is no plan B.